Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Payo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast. I am your host, Nate Payo. So this is episode 0. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you could make it. This is an introductory episode of what to expect from the podcast, why I'm doing the show, why you should tune in, all that hubbub that gets you all interested to explore this journey with me. So the All In podcast is a concept of what happens when you decide that you want to really go all in with your ideas and your efforts, which is something I've done on a little experiment where I said, hey, this is year 2020. I want to see what happens if I do something consistently for a year, 2 years, maybe 5 years, just really put in the efforts, really see where it goes without giving up, without letting self-doubt get in the way to derail thoughts and progress. And it's around one of my passions, which is meeting people and helping others. So the All In podcast is about what happens when you put in all your efforts, you really go ham, hard as a mother, for meeting as many people as you can, connecting with as many people as you can, consistently, and not just at like a very scratch the surface level, but like a deep, meaningful connection, somewhere where you can make it impact a different people's lives. And I realize not all connections are going to turn out that way, but when you put yourself in circumstances such as meeting a lot of people, that the outcome becomes greater, that the possibilities become greater that you're actually going to achieve this. I'm a believer that when you want something to happen in your life, you have to put yourself in scenarios, circumstances that are more likely to a positive outcome. For example, if I want to meet new people, interesting people, connect with people, build a bigger network, the chances are they're not going to show up at my house, ring the doorbell, invite themselves in for a cup of coffee or tea. I have to get out. I have to go to these places where people are at and meet them. And when you get out of your comfort zone and you start doing these things, my experience has been great things tend to happen. They don't happen overnight, but one thing leads to another. And before you know it, you've made amazing friends, you've made amazing connections, and you're actually introduced to people you'd have no idea you would have met under any other circumstances. So this is where All In comes in, is instead of it being conveniently once in a while, sometimes you feel like it, sometimes you don't. This is every day thinking about making connections, meeting with people, taking phone calls, going to events, getting out there, and really seeing where things go, see where relationships develop. And this kind of started 3 years ago when I was in a bit of a rut career-wise, and not that my career wasn't taking off, I just kind of maybe got complacent with where I was at. And I said, hey, I've had ideas. I've wanted to do more. I wanted to get involved with other things. So I started going to more networking things, started getting kind of plugged in with the startup world. And 3 years passed, and I look back on those 3 years, and I've probably seen the biggest amount of career growth in the history of me, on a year-on-year basis that I had previously. So to me, it just really stood out like, hey, if I grow my network, I'm bound to have better success. Not necessarily because I met all these people, like now I'm more successful, but I think the opportunities will present themselves that may lead to bigger and better things, or you might get connected to somebody that really can make a huge impact on your life, or you might make a huge impact on somebody else's life. You just really don't know. And the reason why I wanted to be all in on it and not give up and not be inconsistent with it is I've had ideas in the past that I've abandoned, didn't carry through, didn't follow through, gave up when it got a little too hard. And I've seen other people that kind of started in similar paths at the same time as me not give up, and their hard work and tenacity and their persistence, paid off, and they've been very successful doing what they've done. So this year I said, hey, enough's enough. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let fear and self-doubt get in my way. I'm going to do this idea of getting out there and really expanding my network. And part of that means getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable and putting yourself out there more, being a bit more transparent, more vulnerable, and more available to meet more people. So not only am I doing in-person phone calls, meetings, industry events, but I'm also posting more on social media, talking about this journey, talking about the things that I feel are important to me, and just giving people maybe a window of who I am, and hopefully they'll see something that they connect with and makes them feel more a part of my life and maybe easier to reach. The podcast comes in as a tool, and I heard this story from Gary Vee, and he was saying, hey, remember those kids in high school that weren't all that cool, but their parents went away for the weekend, and they were always away for the weekend so they could have the party at their house. And because they were having the party at their house, the cool kids came, and their popularity and their coolness factor grew because they were hosting the party. Well, the podcast is that party. The podcast, by hosting a podcast, you might get access to people and interesting, cool people and ideas that you don't normally have access to or a reason to talk to. Now you have a podcast, you're kind of this space where people have interest to come chat with you, or you have an interesting story to go chat with them. And to me, it's a tool. This isn't a journey about doing a podcast and meeting cool people and posting on the internet. This is just one tool to help document this journey. And the reason why I wanted to document is twofold. First one is, well, maybe it's more than that. Definitely, there's some accountability. When you post things out there, you feel obligated to do it. You build some momentum, and you start getting some support that you feel like, hey, I can do this, and I want to do it. And because I'm posting about it, I'm not going to just give up because things are tough, or even not get started because I was too afraid to get out there. Two is, I think a lot of times we look at where other people have gotten success-wise in their careers or what they're working on, and we think, man, I wish I could do that, but I just don't have the level, I don't have the experience, I don't have the resources that they do. But I want to show people that, hey, when you just say, I want to do something, and I consistently do it, put in the effort, I can take something from zero and build it up to something else. And where that goes, I don't know. That's part of the experiment. That's part of the fun of this journey. Is there's no expectations of where it ends up. It's just, hey, this is from zero to wherever it goes. Along the way, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to pivot. We're going to change directions. And I want to document it for anybody to see that, like, hey, when you have an idea and you act on it, it can go somewhere. And if you consistently put in the effort, it'll take you further than you ever thought possible. Along the way, you're going to learn a bunch of stuff. At the worst case, you guys might get a good laugh at it, watch me fail horribly, go down in flames. But I don't think that's going to happen. I might not go to the moon. I might not cure cancer, but I might learn a lot about myself along the way, and hopefully inspire some people to do better things with their lives. And if I can just make some impacts, I think then it's all worth it. So that's really what this journey is about. How will the podcast be functioned? Well, it started off, the other part of the thing I wanted to talk about was the value that when I was meeting with people, like over a happy hour, over a coffee, we'd have these conversations, especially when I was advising small businesses, is we'd talk about ideas and things that they could do or things they could work on or share knowledge I learned. And after the meeting would be over, I'd be like, damn, that was a really good conversation. And there was some really great information that we shared. And I thought a lot of people would find value if they heard these things and knew about those things. And there's some creative juices that flow when you're having coffee with somebody or a beer or a cocktail, whatever it is at a happy hour. And you just chat for an hour and just kind of see where things go. I was like, that'd be kind of cool too, to document what goes on when you're just having a little business brainstorming meeting. And I thought, hey, why not take that concept and bring it to the podcast? It's a chance for me to meet cool, interesting people. It's a chance to talk shop, talk business, talk life, talk motivation, talk fitness, talk whatever we want to talk about that's just exciting and interesting, and put it out there. And it's an informal conversation. And you just really see like, hey, this is what's exciting about it. And it's a chance you kind of, I think when you're having a cocktail or you're having coffee or you sit down and have a meal with somebody, your guard goes down. You're able to connect with them on a more intimate, more personal level, and friendships are born. And this is just very fascinating to me. It's very exciting to me. It's what brings me a lot of fulfillment and joy. And that's where the format of the podcast will be, is kind of replicating this get to know you happy hour atmosphere. So the type of guests I want to have on the show will be people that I find very interesting, people that I think have a great story to tell, people who I find inspiring, people who I've watched build and connect with other people, just how they manage their relationships, how they interact, how they grow that, and how they help other people achieve their goals and desires. That is kind of the core of it. I also love fascinating, interesting people that do things that are different. They're not, I guess, cut from the same cloth as most people. They've taken a different path in life that's not conventional, and they found success doing that. They found happiness doing that. So those are the type of people I like hearing about and talking and finding out their stories. And I also believe when you meet people that are different from you, it expands your knowledge, expands your ideas, that your creativity in ways you didn't dream. When you're always around the people that are just like you, talk like you, look like you, I think you become a little bit narrow. You become, too closed off from a lot of things. But when you expand your network of people to include people not like you, that have a different background, different perspective on life, you're going to grow from it. So that brings us to the last question. Why should you tune into this show? Well, I think I've described what the reasons behind it are and the people that are going to be on the show. And if you like building networks, if you like personal connections, if you like seeing how people can impact the world and amazing stories, I think this is going to be a show for you. If you like, more like if you're like me and you thought, hey, I wish I could do something, but self-doubt gets in the way, things, maybe I don't have the time to do these things. I want to be inspiring to say, hey, look, you can do it. You can get out of your comfort zone. You can do things that are different than what you're used to doing. And hopefully you find some inspiration to do great things yourself. So that's really it. That's the introductory episode. I'll be ending this right now, but the last thing I want to do is ask you to subscribe to the show. That'll help get some rankings and listen when you come in. So when new shows get posted, which will probably be about weekly, trying to do a weekly show. Now, I might not always have guests. It might be some shorter rants in between, some rambling, some thoughts. But for the most part, there'll be a guest in about a 20 to 30-minute format. So when you subscribe through your favorite podcast distribution method, Spotify, Apple, then you're going to get notified that there's new episodes up. And if you listen to the podcast and you like what you hear, leave me a review. If you hated what you heard, it's boring as shit, leave me a review. It's the only way I'm going to get better is I know what's more interesting, what's more important to you, the listener. That being said, I'm going to sign off here and hope to see you around on the next show. Take care. Have a good one.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.